Hi, this is Tom Needham, and you're listening to The Sounds of Film, and boy, am I excited to have on the phone with me a true legend. I'm talking about Eric Stoltz. You probably know Eric from many different movies, including Mask, Pulp Fiction, Some Kind of Wonderful, Killing Zoe, Kicking and Screaming, House of Mirth, Jerry Maguire, just to name a few. He's also a director. He's done a number of episodes of Glee and some independent movies. Right now, though, we're going to be speaking to him about his latest film that he directed called Class Rank. It's a very funny comedy. The film stars Olivia Holt and Bruce Dern and many others, and it's a very hilarious film about a group of two teenagers who are trying to team up to run for a high school board seat. Eric, thank you so much for joining us on The Sounds of Film today.
Oh, my pleasure. Gosh, it's quite an overwhelming introduction, though.
Well, Eric, there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I want to talk about Class Rank, but I did notice that you've been doing a lot of directing in recent years, and I was wondering what has been your major motivation? Because you have such success as an actor. What makes you want to direct so much?
Well, I guess I sort of feel like I grew up a bit. And I don't mean that as a derogatory statement about acting, because I'm still acting. I'm acting in a film as we speak. But I think I hit middle age, and I felt like acting was a young man's game. What really turns me on? What really gets me going? And I realized I love being on sets. I love telling stories. I love working with actors and crews. So I started directing, and I feel like it sort of revitalized my passion for what I do and for telling stories and for being a part of the industry.
Well, that's great. If you don't mind, I'd love to go back and talk about some of the films that you're well known for, but maybe we could talk about them from the perspective of what you remember about them in terms of what you learned that has helped you become a better director today. One film that you're especially well known for is the film Mask. You were nominated for a Golden Globe for that performance, and I was wondering, when you look back at that movie, what do you remember from that experience that you can use today when you're directing?
Well, let me preface this section of the conversation by saying that I don't really look back, and I rarely think about things that happened 30 or 35 years ago. It's not something I do at this point in my life. Maybe when I'm an old man, I will enjoy that. But sure, I'll go with it. Peter Bogdanovich gave me a wonderful appreciation of the great classic films. He would screen films for Laura Dern and I, projected on a 35 millimeter projector at his house, and he showed us John Ford and Hitchcock and Wilder and Lubitsch and Wells, and then we would sit around and chat about them. And of course, he knew a lot of the filmmakers, so he was able to tell us how the films came about and the behind-the-scenes story. And he would also very astutely point out scenes in the films that he had shown us that related to the film that we were making at the time. So it wasn't an entirely altruistic experience, but it was an enormous learning experience for me. I felt like I went to a film school in a way, and I have such fond memories of that experience.
Well, that's wonderful. Another film, obviously, that people still recognize you from today is Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. And while Class Rank is very different from Pulp Fiction, I was wondering, is there anything that you learned from your experiences working with Tarantino through the years that you use as a director yourself?
Well, I don't know if you've had the pleasure of interviewing Quentin.
No.
It's a wonderful, crazy experience. He's exactly as he is in interviews. And what I think I took most from that experience was his intoxicating passion for what he does, and how he would approach every day as if it was his birthday party, and we were all there to celebrate it, and weren't we lucky to be doing what we do? And that kind of passion motivates people. When someone truly loves what they do, it brings out the best in everyone around them. And I try to do that when I'm directing. I love what I do. I feel like I'm a kid in a candy store, you know, and I feel like everything that I've done in my acting career sort of led up to this moment. I consider myself just a very happy, lucky man.
Well, that's great. I read somewhere in an interview that that you also learned a great deal from Cameron Crowe, who you did several films with. And one of the things that he's well known for is his character development, and Class Rank has wonderful characters. Can you talk a little bit about that idea of how you handle characters and what you learned from him?
Sure. Well, first of all, the characters in Class Rank were all written quite wonderfully by Ben August, the screenwriter. So it helps to have it helps to have a script where the characters are interesting and funny and take surprising turns. But Cameron was certainly an inspiration in my life and in this film in particular. And one thing that you'll notice about Cameron's films is that he loves all the characters in his films. He loves all the characters in his stories, whether they're perfect or imperfect or Machiavellian or innocent. He treats them all with respect and care and love. And that's what we try to do in Class Rank as well. Is there's no real villain. There's no real antagonist other than the situation. It's really a gentle, kind, loving film about these kids who want to change their world. And in the course of changing the world, end up falling in love because it's a movie, for God's sake. That's what happens in movies. But we wanted to, even the Bruce Dern character, the grandfather, who can come off as gruff and occasionally spiky, we see that he dearly loves his grandson.
Yeah. He's terrific in the movie. If I can ask you about one more director, you worked with John Hughes on the very popular film Some Kind of Wonderful, but I had read somewhere that it wasn't necessarily a great experience shooting that movie. And I'm sure you've had lots of great experiences on movies and some bad experiences on movies through the years. What are the kinds of negative experiences that you, as a director, you just try to avoid so as to make the set, pleasant for all the actors and the crew?
Yeah. Well, John Hughes, God rest his soul. I will not speak ill of anyone because there's no need. There's no need at this point. But it was not an easy film to make. And that being said, one thing that I try to bring to the table as a director is I prioritize performance over technique, and I try to listen with care and respect to the actors, who most of the time, actors are at completely different stages of their career and their profession and their talent and their abilities, and the director becomes not unlike an orchestra conductor that has to take all these disparate players and sections and bring them all together to play a piece that sounds right. And so I spent a great deal of time talking to the actors and finding out about them and their lives and their loves and where they studied and how they like to work. Some actors love to rehearse a great deal. Some actors love to improvise once the camera's rolling. Some actors don't want to be spoken to at all. I worked with Helen Mirren once as an actor, and before we started filming, she pulled the director aside. We were rehearsing, and she said, "I only want to hear 4 things from you: faster, slower, more or less.
Wow.
And she's Helen Mirren, so her instrument is astonishing. Not every actor has that ability, but that sort of sums up. If you listen to your actors and go to them and spend time with them, they will let you know how to get the best out of them.
I've heard many actors talk about how much they love it when they do get a director who's good with actors, or someone who was an actor at one point like yourself that becomes a director. It seems like there's maybe a lot of directors who don't have that ability to work well with the directors, the way I hear that comment so much. What is it that you can bring as a director that someone who was never an actor can't?
Well, I think I've walked a mile in their shoes, so I understand the difficulty of what it is that they do. I mean, there's all kinds of press and stories about the glamour of acting, the rewards, and the all the perks. But when it comes down to it, you are investigating your own soul and bringing to the fore emotions that you may prefer be kept buried. And you're doing that over and over. And when you're doing a play, it's one reason that Marlon Brando didn't go back to the theater, because he said that every night to get to that emotional place, if you truly invest in it, is exhausting, and you want to kill yourself because it's unhealthy at a certain point. And it's difficult, sensitive work. And just knowing that, just understanding that is helpful, I think.
We're speaking to Eric Stoltz. You're listening to The Sounds of Film, and his latest film that he directed is called Class Rank. Now, I mentioned earlier that you directed a whole bunch of episodes of Glee, and that must have been incredible preparation for you to move on to make a film like this, working with young people. Anything in particular that you learned from that experience on working with the cast and crew of Glee that served you well on this film?
Oh, I'm sure there is. It's fairly recent. I mean, I loved working on that show.
Yeah.
I loved the cast and the crew and the writers, and Ryan Murphy. I have great affection for all those people because they invited me into their world, which, at the point that I arrived, was at the peak of its insanity. They were doing world tours, and they couldn't go out on the streets, and they were just a bunch of kids who were suddenly rich and famous. And I was sort of the old dude that came along and helped navigate, for some of them, helped navigate those waters. I remember quite clearly at one point, some of them came up to me and said, "Hey, man, should I rent a private plane and go to Vegas for a birthday party?" And I turned to him and I said, "You are out of your mind. You should take that money and get into therapy right now, pal. You should get into therapy because who cares about a birthday party in Vegas? You want to make a career that lasts." So I was sort of like the guy who would just sort of tell them the truth and adore them at the same time. I doubt that they listened to me, but it was fun to be around.
Eric, you sound pretty wise.
It was a joyful experience.
I mean,
Well,
were you always this person?
I don't think I'm wise.
Well, I mean, at a young age, when you were their age, I mean, is this stuff that you were doing? Were you being smart? Because, I mean, you do have longevity in the business, and you seem to make smart decisions.
Well, look, when I was a young actor and newly successful, I was a knucklehead like anybody else because it's intoxicating, it's thrilling. But I did get into therapy early, and I did have a stable family life and a group of friends and an acting studio that supported me, and it was, I took care to build my house out of bricks.
Well, it seemed to work. I was watching Class Rank, and two of the films that I immediately thought of as It seemed like obvious influences, but maybe you could tell me if they were or not, or if there were other films that influenced all of you making this movie. Were the film Election and Rushmore also, I thought of, the Wes Anderson movie. Were these films influences, or were there any other movies that you guys looked to for inspiration?
Well, those are two great movies to be inspired by. I think Election might have come to mind simply because it also features a very smart, bright, driven female lead. However, I think Election tonally is quite caustic and bitter and mean, and I love it.
Yeah.
But Class Rank is not that. We have a very smart, driven, blonde, young female lead who wants to be a member of the Supreme Court, but throughout the course of the film, she becomes humanized and falls in love and learns how to open up her heart. And I don't see any similarity to Election other than the fact that she's blonde and smart. Did you say Rushmore?
I did say Rushmore. Yeah.
Yeah, I can certainly see that, and that was not entirely intentional. What happened is we filmed the movie in Louisiana, and we had rented equipment, for our camera department, and the equipment we rented was just terrible. It was substandard. The dolly didn't work, the slider didn't work, the tripod broke in the middle of a shot, the connections, absolutely nothing worked. So all my glorious shots that I had planned had to be jettisoned, and I had to figure out how to shoot a scene so that it would play and make sense and tell the story. And, I think I had 19 days to film the movie. So I fell back on, well, you know what, I'll get a wide-angle insert here. It works in Wes Anderson's films. I don't mind giving an homage and a tribute because I think he's enormously talented. I will steal from the best. It wasn't entirely... We'd never set out to say, ooh, we're going to make an homage to Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Basically, we were screwed on the day and thought, well, what can we do? Well, here, we'll get some inserts, some close-ups, some wide angles, some above shots, because you just hold the camera still and film it. And it was the most cost-effective way to get through the shoot.
Well, I mean, if that works, I mean, there were a lot of similarities too. I think with the main character, the male character, and also some.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Smart kids, I think, are his territory.
Yeah. But you handled it really, really well. Another thing that I love about this movie, and I have to say it's something, I don't know if it's just a coincidence, that I love about a lot of your films, but you've had the good fortune of being in or directing movies that just have great music soundtracks. And the name of this show is called The Sounds of Film, and I've been playing your movie soundtracks for many, many years. And very cool soundtrack in this movie. You have jazz and rock, I mean, all different styles, and it just really kind of sets the tone. Like, what were you going for in terms of your musical choices for this movie?
Well, I love that question. I have a composer I work with quite regularly named Brian Byrne. He's an Irishman, and he composed the score and recorded it with a full orchestra for very little money. And he did all the jazz score and the classical stuff, and I would give him cues. I cut the film using a little bit of Debussy here and a little bit of Mozart there, and I would send it to him saying it's in this key and this tempo, and I think Bernard should have a theme, and then they loosen up as they go along, and she plays the violin. There were a couple of pop songs in it that are lovely as well. Doris Day opens the film, and she was actually didn't want to give us the rights until we sent her the script and told her that it would be a family film. But Brian Byrne, he wrote a score. I did a short film called The Grand Design that he did the score for as well. All of these are available on iTunes. And I work quite closely with him. Adding the music to me is one of my favorite parts of post-production.
I'm not surprised that you said that because I just got the sense that there was a lot of joy. You were talking about enjoying the moment of being a director and making movies, and you can tell it very often in the score. I know we have to wrap this up, but if you can just tell me, as you look back at this whole experience of making Class Rank, what is it that you're most proud of in terms of your experience making this movie?
Well, I think I'm most proud of the fact that we made it, it's out in the world, and it has a good message, a good idea that hopefully will help kids feel like, they can do something. They can reach out, they can try and change their world. And it's happening in the real world right now with the marches and American kids taking action, trying to change what's happening. And that, having that be an underlying message of this film means something to me. That hopefully someone will see it and think, you know what, I might run for office. In fact, there's an 18-year-old girl in Long Island, in Lindenhurst, Long Island, named Gabrielle Anzalone, who is running for the Board of Education, and I believe the election is tomorrow. So the idea that this film reflects or echoes what might actually be happening, that young people in America might actually be taking an interest, getting pissed off, registering to vote, and changing the things that they don't like, is kind of exciting to me.
I agree. Not to just sell myself, but I'm also involved in education, and what you just talked about is one of the things I like the most about the film. So thank you for making this movie, and it is a great message, and it's a funny movie. It's very inspiring, and I think people are going to love Class Rank. I believe the film is available digitally and video on demand, and everyone should go and look for Eric Stoltz's Class Rank. Eric, it's really been a pleasure speaking to you. I hope we can talk again in the future, and I want to congratulate you on a very fine movie.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Okay. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
You too.